think I finally found the perfect middle ground between a wheelbarrow and an ATV trailer. If you've seen my channel before, you know I used to have an ATV with a bush buggy trailer. Something like that's perfect for big jobs around the yard or around your farm, but for smaller jobs it was more of a hassle. By the time you took out your ATV and the trailer and hooked everything up, those small jobs could have been done already. Another thing I didn't like about that bush buggy trailer is that once you've loaded something up and when it came time to dump, it didn't dump all the way. It only dumped to about a 45-degree angle. So anything that you were hauling, whether it be dirt or gravel, you had to shovel it out and then drive your bike forward and shovel the rest out. And it took too long. And then after I sold my ATV, the bush buggy was just too awkward to use and it wasn't something you can carry around the yard manually. So I replaced it with a wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow has its great uses around the yard, smaller jobs, but one of the things, if anybody's ever used a wheelbarrow before, if you have an uneven yard or if you have any ruts, or if you even tilt it up too high, that crossbar in front ends up digging into the ground and you end up coming to a sudden stop. Sometimes you get impaled with the handle, or you just tip the thing over and dump everything out. Another issue that I don't like with the wheelbarrow is if you're sort of rushing and you're shoveling dirt and tossing it in, if it's hitting the side of the wheelbarrow, it's flipping over, especially if you have only the one wheel. The two wheels might be something different. They're just slightly more expensive. So with all that said, I started looking for something that I could use around the yard manually, and if I wanted to, I could hook it up to the lawn tractor. And then I discovered these poly carts. It's just a plastic cart, not cheap by any means, but it seemed to be more functional for what I wanted around the yard. I don't have a big farm, it's just under an acre yard, and I'm constantly getting dirt and gravel for around it to try to level everything out and filling some of the portion of my yard that needs to be filled in. So I started looking for something that would be more practical, that I can use on my own, that has four wheels, that has a handle, and something that can be converted by taking the handle off and hooking it onto the garden tractor for something that, you know, for the bigger loads. Because the thing is that you don't have to fill up these carts all the way. You can just use them for smaller jobs, for mulch and stuff, instead of carrying it around, or you can fill it up, and if it's too heavy by hand, then you can hook it up to the garden tractor. Then I stumbled upon this site called Vevor, I think that's how you pronounce it, and they sell these poly carts at a reasonable price. They're cheaper than the Gorilla carts that you see online, roughly the same price as the Canadian Tire ones, but looking at it, it seemed the dump feature was better, it had a bigger handle, it held more weight. The one I got is a 1,500 pound. For the same price, you can get one at Crappy Tire for, I think it was 600 pounds, but the dump handle was sort of like a metal pin that you had to pull out instead of a nice plastic handle. So in this video, I'm going to assemble it. It's not an unboxing or a how-to assemble it. I'm sure the instructions are pretty clear. Judging what I found online, it's pretty self-explanatory just by looking at the pictures. And then I'll go through the features that I like and then I dislike. I got a load of dirt and gravel that I have to do, so I'll be doing that throughout the summer and we'll see how it performs. Everything comes packed right inside. The tires are already pumped up. Zip tie is broken, so clearly things rattle around during shipping. Looks like you get a net to put over top. It also has these things here. I know you can buy like a cage that goes across, or you can maybe stick some wood in. Walls are pretty flimsy, but once it's together, maybe it's more solid. This is the handle that I was talking about. If you look at the Crappy Tire ones, it's more of like a pin, just a U-bolt that goes through holes. And then you got to remove that. So this seems to be a little bit better. It looks like it's better. It's got a bigger handle versus, you know, lining up pins. Another broken strap. Not sure what that's for. This is the convertible handle that you can attach to your lawn tractor after. I wonder what this rubber kaput's for. Here's another one.
So I don't see what these things are for. Maybe it was to protect something from shipping. To be honest, I don't know. It doesn't show anywhere in the pictures, but you can see on the indent it has a square. So maybe it was put on there for shipping and then just fell off after. Okay, so the first thing is the support frame. Everything's pre-drilled. So in the instructions it says to use M8 by 15, and there is none, but there's some M8 by 20 mil. So that might be an error, or I'm missing parts. So the parts list says, so you got the tires, the long axle, the short axle, the handle. You have a pin. It says it's supposed to be 2 pins. I have 4 pins. 2 gaskets, I got 4 gaskets. 2 to 55s, that's good, that's good. And then the wrenches and the net. So the 2 O pins, yeah, so that's printing error, because like each pin is for the tires. You got 4 tires. It says you're only supposed to have 2. So the tools that you get are never any good. These are better than what you get from IKEA though. These you just throw out once you're done putting it together. You don't keep these around the house. I know in some videos they said you're supposed to get some sort of plastic washer here, but those were the 1,200 pound dolly poly carts. So maybe, I guess you don't get one for here. It doesn't even show in the instructions that you get one. Yeah, so like I said, it showed like an orange washer that you'd put there, but this one here doesn't seem to have one. I think it just pivots on that bushing. I might take these off later on and put some Loctite on them, because these aren't locking nuts. And inside there is some gouges out of the plastic from the shipping, from all that stuff moving around. So it is pretty easy to put together. Where it gets confusing is in the instructions. It shows that there's supposed to be washers, places where don't get no washers. For an example, might be hard to see, but up here, there's no washer, but in the picture, it shows a washer. So that gets a little confusing, because you know, you're looking for stuff that's not there. The only 4 washers that you do get are for the wheels. So you end up, you know, you put them there, and then, okay, well, what do you use for the wheels? And another thing I don't like about it is that they give you a washer for the outside, but to me, there should be a washer on the inside as well. So I'll probably purchase that separately. Another thing is where the washer is supposed to go, or where the picture shows there's a washer, there is no washer. And anytime you buy these, I call them cheap welded stuff, you can tell the weld isn't that great. I mean, it doesn't look like bubble gum, but there is some splatter. And if you were to tighten these too much and squeeze these together, a lot of time these welds crack. I might buy some washers for this just to space it out more, and maybe either put some Loctite on it or just buy some lock washers and some flat washers. A lot of stuff already comes in the hole, so it's not in that package that you had to rip apart. Same with this, that bolt there was already in there, and there is missing a nut. So I'm not sure if this was already taken apart, but it's missing a nut. So I'll have to find one. These are lock nuts, so that's good. But I'll have to find an extra nut somewhere because there's only 3. Unless it fell out in the box. No, it didn't fall out. So I'll reach out to the company, see if you can get extra nuts for them. These are recessed in, so it's a hex nut that fits in a hex groove, and you need a Phillips or a flathead to screw it in from the inside, which they don't supply. Sometimes you'll get like a little screwdriver. So I'll start it by hand and I'll tighten it up later. And this just hooks onto there to hold the dump down. And that's it. So I'll tighten this up and then I'll put it to some use. Hey, got it all together, got an extra bolt in. I'll show you a close up of that. Things that I do like, I like the size. Seems to be the same size, if maybe a little bit bigger than the wheelbarrow. Easy to maneuver. They did cheap out on some things, like this handle without the washers in the middle. You can't tighten it anymore without cracking the weld. This is way too loose for me. I don't like that. It is pretty neat that you have this pin here, so if you're hooking it up to your trailer, you just flip it out of the road, and then you can use this pin for your lawn tractor. So that's pretty cool. You don't gotta ever take off the handle. So I like that. The walls, I like has a little groove so that can sit in. These walls are flimsy though. It's a full load of gravel that would definitely be pushing out, but maybe not. I haven't tried it yet. What I also like is this dump feature. Like I was saying with the bush buggy, it tilts back and rests, but it also comes like this. So you can dump it all the way out. And this is a nice big handle compared to some of the other ones where it's just a little U-bolt pin. Another thing I don't like is they claim this to be a 15 cubic feet. I think it's only around 6. I think that's what my wheelbarrow is 6. I don't know where they get that number from. If you do the measurements, I think it's like 6 or something. Unless they're including the other one, the upgraded version, which is double the price. You have, instead of air in the tires, they're all rubber, so flat free. And it comes with a big cage. Maybe that's where they're getting the 15 and it's just a generic picture that they show, because it says that this is 15 and it's not. You do the calculation, it's not. So this is what's in my wheelbarrow here. Of course, this is very flimsy and it twists and very easy to tip over. So we'll see size comparison to that. I'll load it the same. Oh, I guess depending how you load it. It's a little deeper, so maybe this holds a little bit more because it's deeper on the front instead of the scoop. But gives you an idea of comparison. Definitely a lot easier to maneuver with 4 wheels. But I really don't like this handle, how loose it is. I'll look to see if I found a bolt in the back for the dump. So I'm going to try to find some washers. It's not heavy at all to dump that. It's harder to push it back down than it is to lift. I'm not going to dump it out just in case the bags break. So I ended up putting 2 3/8 washers in there. And it just so happened whenever I was taking it off, I dropped the nut onto the floor, and I ended up finding the missing nut from this handle. So I'll replace that. But you can see now all that play is gone right through there. You can't tighten it up all the way because you can't squish it together. So it's got to be able to move. But now all the play is gone. So it's basically no play into the steering, which is much better. But because this doesn't stick out as much anymore, I am going to have to probably add some Loctite. But I'll do that to all the bolts because they're not lock nuts. Oh, much better. Before, this would be so loose before you can actually steer the wheels. Now there's no play whenever you go to push it back it up, that you're not moving all over the place. That's a lot better. So definitely add some washers in there. Doesn't seem to turn as far as the 1200 pound one. I think it's because the 1200 pound one doesn't have this bracket. I think it just sits flat compared, if you look at the videos, or not the videos, but the pictures, this extra piece doesn't come with it. So that prevents it from turning all the way. So basically it stops there. Gotten quite a bit of rain since I had this dirt delivered, and so I had to tarp it just to keep it from washing away into my yard. So who knows how much weeds are now going to be underneath this, because it's been covered for a couple of weeks now. Huh, not too bad actually. No, that's perfect. No weeds at all. Just on the sides where it wasn't underneath the tarp. So I have to fill in this area because the dump truck made a whole bunch of big ruts. The turning radius on this isn't all that great compared to the other videos of the 1200 pound one. I know the 1200 pound one, the specs for the box are the same. So it's the same size, same cubic feet, but maybe it's just not as a beefy frame. Hopefully you can hear me from here. My camera's set up in my driveway, so I'm not actually sure how far these mics go. But one thing I was saying about sticker for my shovels coming off. But the wheelbarrow, a lot of time if it's uneven ground, it's a pain in the ass whenever you're throwing dirt in, because it'll hit the side and a lot of time it'll tip over. But having 4 wheels, it's going to be a huge difference. I don't have far to go, I'm just going right here. Make sure you get this in the shot of dumping. So this is very uneven, lots of ruts. It's very easy to push. Oh, that's super light. It's actually heavier to push it back down than it is to lift. Oh, that's super easy. Of course the mud's stuck, but I like that because you can tip it right out. Yeah, that works pretty good. I like that. A little bit left, but it's mud. And then it all comes out. Yeah. Overall, it works pretty good. I'm happy with it. And that's it. Put this to good use. It's a good compromise between the bush buggy and a wheelbarrow. So I'll be using this quite a bit this summer, and then at the end of the summer, maybe I'll give an update if it's something you guys want to see on how it lasts, because I have this pile of dirt. I got all this gravel to get rid of, just to spread out, and then I'll make another video on if it lasts.